So good morning, everybody. My name is Dan Helms. I'm from New Readers Press. Sarah Gutting is presenting today, and Sarah is an adult educator. She's a nationally known adult education consultant. She's someone I've known for more than 15 years in this business, during which time I've had the privilege of being able to witness the depth of her passion for adult education. So New Readers Press is very happy today to be able to bring you Sarah and her presentation. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Dan. Except that I can't forward my screen. Why can't I forward my screen?
Well, click on it and then try again.
Okay. Why can't I forward my screen? Oh, there we go. Okay. So there I am. If anybody wants to see who I am, that's me. I did just resign, didn't retire because I'm still currently working at another program, but I did just resign from the Hamilton County Jail, Little County Jail, north of our big city, Indianapolis in Indiana. 28 years, I helped really develop that program. It was my passion. It was my second love. My husband heard me say it was my first love and he didn't like that. So it's actually my second love. But I did absolutely love teaching, and I'm able to still do a little bit of teaching and try out some of the things that I always talk to the people about when I do presentations, as an instructor, instructional coach, and also a little bit of a part-time teacher with another program in Indianapolis. And I'm absolutely thrilled to be able to do those type of things. So grab that person real quick. So that's who I am. So today we're talking about reading. And for me, reading oftentimes is, I still can't figure out why I can't forward. Why can't I press forward on this?
It just goes to sleep
Okay.
on you.
So when I think of reading, sometimes I think of this. I think it is just absolutely crazy. Do I do this? Do I do that? What do I do? How do I get from point A to point B? So I'm hoping to take you from that crazy, I don't know what to do, it's so abstract, random, to something very straight and forward. Because when you think about it, we've got math, we know what to teach. Add, subtract, multiply, divide, fractions, decimals, percents, algebra, formulas, functions, whatever it is. When you've got writing, we know exactly what to teach. We know we need to do commas, we need to do the essay, we need to do misplaced modifiers. We know that. But when it comes to reading, we really don't have a straight, functional, structured way to teach reading. So what I'm hoping to do today is to give you that. But before we do that, I really want to talk a little bit about what the definition of reading is. And the definition of reading is really, it's a complex system of deriving meaning from print that requires an understanding of our phonemes, which is our speech, our sounds, the ability to decode those unfamiliar words, so sounding them out, the ability to read fluently. So we got to know our sounds, we got to know our vocabulary, we got to be able to read fluently, which means I can read seamlessly before I can start thinking about putting all of that together to comprehend and then create a motivation to read. So really, we've got to think about those four components, and that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about today, but I'm going to focus mostly on fluency and comprehension. And that all came from that partnership for reading that I love. So I would highly recommend, especially if you are teaching reading, that you look at this link. I will upload all of this stuff to where they told me to upload it to their website. So you can grab this PowerPoint and any of the handouts that I have in this PowerPoint. But I would love for you to take a look at this link. You can download this pamphlet that goes through the four components that I just talked about, which also correlate to this book that I'm also going to talk a little bit about from New Readers Press. It's everything you need to know about reading with actual activities. So you know how you get a resource book? Notice it says resource. You get resource books and it's like, oh, okay, it's a book. It's just going to tell me what to do, but not give me ideas on how to do it. This book gives you the activities. It gives you the reproducible handouts. It gives you everything. And oh, look, there's one for ESL as well. And there's also one for math, but we're not talking about math today. Sorry. But it does teach specific strategies. The other thing, if you look at the beginning of the chapters, in the beginning of this, it actually talks about the characteristics of the adult learner. And I had somebody tell me the other day on one of my webinars, she said, I bought every one of my new teachers this book. So now this becomes the beginning for new teachers in adult education, ESL or GED, HSE. They will get one of those books so that they can actually understand the adult learner, and it talks about some of their needs, special needs, differences, learning difficulties. It's all in this book in the beginning, and then it goes in on how to teach these different components that we're going to talk about. I'm going to kind of pull that up. Couple of things that I really like about that book, and when it comes to reading, is it does talk about the four components: alphabetics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension, along with what I just showed you in the links pamphlet. It's based on the National Institute for Literacy. I love the language experience approach. We're not going to have time to talk about that today, although it's one of my favorite things to do. It's in the early stages of reading. Does anybody know the LEA or how to do LEA? Does anybody know that one? Anybody? I think I lost somebody. Did I lose somebody? Anyway, the language experience approach, I'll tell you very quickly, is basically talks to the students about what can be spoken, can be written, what can be written, can be read. It's a very preliminary way to get people who need to start reading and writing a way to get started. So they speak something to you, you write it down word for word, you read it back to them, and you help them read it back after that. It is a great way to help them get started. And then the book goes into reproducible tools for comprehension and writing.
Could you repeat that? What can be spoken, can be written, what can
So
be...
what can be spoken, can be written.
Okay,
What can be written, can be read.
I got you. Thank you.
And it's great, Connie. And this book explains exactly how to do it. The other the Law Box series also talks about the LEA approach, especially that early for literacy. Also talks very early on about how to use the language experience approach to help those people start to read. Okay. Okay. I've already kind of talked about the table of contents, but what I really want to talk about, what I really want you to notice is that when you look at this, don't skip over all of this, especially if you have new teachers, because the new teachers in there, or you're starting to teach reading for the first time, it talks about what is adult literacy. Who is the adult learner? Where do you begin? Where do you start with your students? Then it goes right into an entire chapter on that LEA, that language experience approach. Then it goes into alphabetics, our phonemes, our vocabulary. Then it goes into fluency, and then it goes into comprehension. And what I always say is that you cannot have fluency and comprehension unless you have your alphabetics, your vocabulary, your fluency, and then comprehension. You've got to have those four things. And what I just got done talking to my teachers about at Warren Township, where I teach, is they were all jumping into comprehension, especially with our ESL students that are transitioning. And I said, they don't have vocabulary. We got to back up. We got to go to vocabulary, because when you have vocabulary, now I'll have fluency. And then after fluency, I will have comprehension. I cannot have comprehension without these other three components. And it's so important that we understand that. I'm going to go over just a few of these today. I'm going to talk about under fluency, we're going to do pencil tracing, because I really like that one. And I have found some great success with it. And then under comprehension, we're going to talk about the reading skills builder, which actually was developed by the University of Southern Illinois, or Southern Illinois University. I really should remember which one it is. I took what they did for their high school people, and I said, I don't have a semester to do that skills builder, but what I can do is this. And so I kind of adapted it to make it work for adult educators, but I always want to give them credit for at least starting that conversation on how to develop reading skills. So when you talk about fluency, now remember, I did skip over that other first couple pieces, because I want to just talk about fluency and comprehension, because that's mostly where we get our students. We know we have to develop vocabulary. That is just a given. And if we aren't working on vocabulary all the time with our students, all the time, if we are not developing their vocabulary when it's social studies, science, language arts, reading, math, all of that, if we are not developing vocabulary, we aren't going to make better readers. And we've got to create that vocabulary before we can get to fluency. And I love the fluency piece because it's a lot of what we already do. I believe it's like what I do. And I love kind of putting a system to what I already knew to kind of do. I already loved reading out loud to my students. I love to read out loud. So the learner listens and I read. And I think it's important. And like in 4th grade, when my teacher read us the Laura Ingalls Wilder books, we didn't read them. She read us a chapter every day throughout the whole school year. And I fell in love with reading because I fell in love with Laura Ingalls Wilder. I think it's important that they hear us read. They hear our intonations. They hear how we may stumble over a word or two, and that's okay. But we sounded it out and we got through it. I love the duet reading where the tutor and the learner read together. So you're reading at the same time. I love that. And I like it because what I'll do is I'll take it, and it tells you this in this book, is you should just follow along with your finger. I can't do it looking at the screen. You follow along with your finger. If you've got students that have special learning difficulties or differences or disabilities, those color overlays, if you've ever seen those, and they've got like just one line that you can see, but it's in blue, you can put that over it, and then they can just center and focus on that one line, but you're reading it together. So they're keeping track and pace with you. And then the echo reading where the tutor reads and then learner repeats exactly what you read. And then you do the alternate reading where I read, you read, I read, you read. But my favorite one is phrasing with pencil tracking. I used to call it chunking. These guys call it phrasing with pencil tracking. So, and I think you'll remember it when you see, if I take this right here where it says tutor models activity and learner reads phrases aloud while using a pencil to connect the words in a phrase. Tutor models activity and learner reads phrases aloud while using a pencil to connect the words in a phrase. And then you just keep building. Tutor models activity and learner reads phrases aloud while using a pencil to connect the words and phrases. You keep building and building and building. It's going to look like this. Does anybody want to, all my 500 people I have here, does anybody want to model?
I think you have 1,000.
I know. I think this is so important. I'm so passionate about reading. And mind you, I have to tell you guys, since it's just the few of us here, I was not a good reader. I was not a good reader until I met my husband. I don't think I read an entire novel unless it came in Cliff Notes when I was in high school, until my husband sat me down and he got me Newsweek or Time Magazine or something. And he said, I need you to read an article a day and we're going to talk about it. And he really pushed me to start reading. He's an intelligent man. And he really pushed me to just read. And that's when I started really enjoying reading. And I challenged myself to read a really difficult book. And I made it through. And I'm thinking, well, this wasn't so bad. I can stay focused, because I had a hard time staying focused. Chunking helped me stay focused. So who would like to do that? Somebody give me all 4 of those sentences, the way it's written out, the way it's designed, like this. Let me get my laser. So it'd be Scott went to the store to buy a new pair of shoes. Who wants to do the next one?
Scott went to the store to buy a new pair of shoes.
Okay, Jasmine, you want to do the next one?
Yeah, Scott went to the store to buy a new pair of shoes.
Okay, all together.
Scott went
to the
to
store
the store to buy a new
pair of shoes. I know we're all delayed here. But do you see how it kind of helped go through? I would do something like this several times until they got through the fluency. And you always want to pick something about their level, maybe a little higher level, maybe with a few vocabulary words that you want to go over ahead of time, and then go through it. And this book will tell you exactly how to do it. I can't tell you enough how much I do love this book. And I said to Dan like 2 or 3 years ago, I'm like, what? This is like your best kept secret. I didn't know this book existed until somebody else told me about it. And I'm like, where was this book when I was 20 years ago? I mean, maybe it didn't exist 20 years ago. I don't know, but it is a great book. And I wanted to share with you phrasing with pencil tracking. You can see it's on page 57. Page 57 of this book. And then because you guys asked about the LEA, I want to tell you what page that's on in here, because it's a whole section. Where was that? It is chapter 6 and it's page 46. So the language experience approach is page 46, and they talk to you about how to do it by using videos and pictures, photos from their own stories, newspapers. So you're building, not just teaching them how to read and write, but you're building their knowledge base as well. And what I have found out with this, a couple of students that I'm working with right now, we were reading something about Helen Keller on the language arts reading. They had no idea who Helen Keller was. And we take it for granted, some of our base knowledge. They don't have that base knowledge. So the more we can give them base knowledge of things in little snippets, the better off we are. And that's what the language experience course at least starts introducing to them. This is what I really want to get to, though. So I really want to get to this one. So I will upload this. Oh wait, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do that. I was trying to get rid of that screen up on top. How do I get rid of that? That's all right. I think I'm good. So it's called the Reading Skills Builder. It was developed, as I said, by the University of Southern Illinois or Southern Illinois University. They did it over a period of, they did it on a period of like a semester. Every department did it in the math, the language arts people, social studies, science, economics, everybody had to use this, and they raised their test scores to be like a, I don't know what Illinois called it, like the Apple Star people or something. They became like an Apple Star or Star Award, because every department raised their scores by so much that they got the state level award. So I thought, well, if K through 12 can do it, there's got to be a way that we can use this to help our students learn how to read concretely. So we're going to actually do this activity. So we're going to start with disease. We're just going to start with disease, okay? And so what I would do, and tell me if I need to pull this closer, maybe I will. And I decide, my son goes, Sarah, why aren't you using Google Whiteboard or whatever? I said, because my teachers probably are not using Google Whiteboard, are they? They're using this. And I wanted to do what they're going to be using. So this is what you would do. You would write disease. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You would write disease, or you could write World War I, or you could write nuclear bomb, or anything, whatever it is you want to talk about that day and you want to have an article for. You're going to write that up on the thing, okay? And now we're going to do number one, and number one says what?
List 10 facts you know about the subject. Ooh.
Right. So 10 facts you know. And here I always start out. And the first thing I say, I'm going to say, wow, COVID-19.
Yeah.
COVID-19. What do you want to say? We're going to come up with 10 things. What do we want to say? And it can be anything. It can be a movie. It can be an article. It can be something you've experienced in your life. It can be anything. So I put COVID-19. What do you guys want to do?
Hereditary.
Hereditary. How do you spell hereditary? Hereditary. I'm a horrible speller, and I'm a really bad speller in front of people. So I'm just letting you know that. Okay,
Pain,
what is it?
pain,
Pain. That's really good. Okay, I'm gonna put one up. Oh, what? Somebody's gonna say something.
Contagious, maybe?
Oh, I like that. I'm gonna put pandemic
Okay.
because I think that's a good one to talk about. Okay, what else?
Yeah.
We're at number 6.
harmful,
What is it?
harmful,
Harmful?
yeah.
I like it.
Disabling.
Disable. Oh, great. Now I gotta spell disabling. Disable.
L-I-N-G.
I-N. Is that right? Doesn't look right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good.
Okay. All right. 8.
What else? Diseases.
Trying to think of
Missing
a-
work. Missing work.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay. 9.
Costly. Costly.
Ooh, costly. All right, last one.
Doctor.
Okay. All right. So you see how we just listed 10 things. It didn't have to be fantastic. It didn't have to be, something I know from 1917 pandemic. I mean, it didn't have to be anything like that. It could have just been anything. And when we talk about multi-level and inclusion, because I wanted to bring that into this workshop, everybody can do this. I don't care how smart they are or how challenged they are. Everybody starts with number 1. Everybody, the entire group. So you're now as a whole group, you got your cohort. Everybody does number 1. We all list our 10 things that we all think about, because what you're doing is you're booting their brain up. If you want to add a few more, you can. If people add a few more, that's great. There's never a wrong answer. It might not be direct. You might want to go in your head, oh, how does that relate to it? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's what they think of when they think of disease. So that is what goes on here. We're booting their brains up. We're trying to find, and you as a teacher are trying to find what their level of knowledge is. You don't have to tell them that. But you're finding out what their level of knowledge is by these 10 things. What's their base knowledge? Okay. So then number 2, and we're going to look at a couple passages here in a minute, but number 2 is what? Somebody read that to me.
Define all terms.
Define all your terms. You're building that vocabulary. And I always tell them, you've got to look at the questions. So you look at the questions as well, because I had a student who could read and comprehend like no other, but he kept getting tripped up. Why did he keep getting tripped up on the test? What was it? He could read and comprehend really well, but he wasn't doing well on the test. What was it?
He wasn't able to determine what it is they were asking.
Yes, the vocabulary was in the question.
Yeah.
So the vocabulary was in the question that he didn't understand. We think we know the word assumption, but I don't think they really know what the word assumption means. It might have said something like analyze, or I'm trying to think some of the other big words that we're going through right now that on that language arts reading that they just don't get. We've got to define not only what's in the article, but what's in the questions. We've got to go through the questions. Jasna?
No, but I'm saying, of course, a word has, can have a lot of meanings too.
Yes.
So that's the problem. Sometimes, one meaning, but you don't know the meaning B, meaning C.
And you know
Yeah.
what? That's really good. And we've got to make sure we are preparing them for that. Help them with
Yeah.
those by reading it in context. In context. That made me think of my guy the other day. He's a English language learner. So he's bridged from our ESL classes, and now he's in our high school equivalency class. He's getting ready to take the test. He's passed everything except the language arts reading. And we were talking about anecdote, ANEC. And he kept saying, I thought that was antidote, meaning when you get bit by a snake and you take an antidote.
Oh,
And that one letter, C, he missed that because he didn't understand. And the question was about an anecdote, and he didn't get it. And it was like, wow, that was really interesting. And so we said, let's write those words down. I'm making them keep books on these are your vocabulary books. Keep your vocabulary journals because they've got to build their vocabulary. My other guy is English speaking, but his vocabulary is about this big. And so he and I are working on vocabulary because he couldn't read fluently at all when I met him about a month ago. And he is doing so much better because we started working on vocabulary. And when there's a word he doesn't know, I say, pick a word. I don't care what it is, Smith, I don't care. So now we just say the word Smith and we keep moving. So blah, 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 Smith, we keep moving. And then he comes back to that word and figures it out because he's got to build that vocabulary and it's just not there yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there. And I have until the end of May because I want them to get these tests before the end of the year. I get these guys done. So then what's number 3?
Read all captions, charts, maps, and graphs.
Okay, I'm going to fast forward here for a minute. All right. So these are from your Journey to Success books. How do I get rid of this thing up on top of my, no, I want it to go away. No, that's not what I wanted. Okay.
Control Alt
you did it.
Command.
Control Alt Command.
Sorry, Control Alt Shift H.
Oh, that's a lot. I'll just leave it there. I'm afraid I might do something. Thank you, Rita. Was that Rita who said that?
Yeah.
So
it,
I can
it
see
took me
now.
some time to get it.
I need to, it's there when I don't want it there, and it's not there when I want it there. That's the problem. So these are from the Journey to Success books. And Dan is going to kill me, but all of my Journey to Success books are at work right now, and I had to bring them home with me. Sorry, but this is what they look like. I'm going to show you a picture of them here in a minute. But what I love about these is that you can do Journey level 5, and I can do Journey level 6, and they're about disease. Might not be the exact same article, but I can do the reading skills builder, and I can talk about disease. Now they've got their own articles to go in and look at their maps, graphs, and charts. And I'll show you a 2 and a 3 here in a minute. This is a 2 and a 3. See how low level 2 is? That's your pretty low literacy. But then here's level 3. And they're also talking about how bats can carry disease or have disease and all of that. So if I wanted to stay within the same theme and I had 3 levels of learning, I can. And what I like about the Journey books is the fact that they have vocabulary, comprehension, inferencing, multiple choice, and open entry answer. You know, the, what's it called? The, not open where I have to write. What's that called? When I have to write down, it's not just multiple choice, it's the other. I got to write an answer. It's got all of that.
Essay.
But I can now have them look at their maps, graphs, and charts. And now we can talk about what does your map, graph, and chart look like? Or you can do this whole thing together using a level 5, which most people can do with the maps, graphs, and charts, analyze them. So we're going to look at it and it says the spread of plague in Europe. It's got the different colors. We talk about how to read that graph. We take a look at it. We're doing this as a whole group maybe. And then I go back and I look at the next one, which is what?
Yeah, and that's weird. Answer questions before you read, right?
It is weird, but think about it, Jasna. How many times as teachers do we say, look at the questions and now go back and read,
Oh, well,
right? What this reading skills builder decided is that we weren't doing the first 3 things first. Boot your brain up, skim and scan real quick. You're not reading, you're skimming and scanning to look for that vocabulary. And then you're going through and you're reading all the captions, charts, maps, and graphs. By doing that, they have a lot of knowledge to now just go and look at the passage, at the questions, answer those questions. Now, what's number 5, Jasna?
Read the
let's-
passage, right, right.
Now
Let's
I'm
go-
going to read, and now I'm going to re-answer the questions and change any answers. If there's 5 questions or 4 questions, usually they will change 2, and they will at least get 1 or 2 right that they didn't change after they've read, because they've analyzed this map, graph, and chart. They've looked at some of the vocabulary. They're learning how to skim and scan. They're learning that skimming and scanning technique, which kind of died after I left high school. I don't know. I said to somebody who was about 15 years younger than me, she was one of my teachers. I said to Maureen, I go, you know, skimming and scanning. And she goes, what? I go, what do you mean what? Skimming and scanning. She said, we weren't taught to skim and scan. Well, maybe that's why people aren't passing the test. I don't know. Because I was taught how to skim and scan, get the big pieces of information. It's a skill we have to teach if we want them to pass that language arts reading test, especially. So then you go back and then you re-answer those questions and change any answers. This is the practice before the big game. Like what season are we in? Baseball. The baseball guys go out and practice and practice and practice. They don't just run through the game. They're practicing hitting the ball. They're practicing catching the ball. They're practicing so that when the big day comes, it's automatic. And that's what this does. I also use this as a learning center. Do you guys use learning centers, learning zones, learning stations? So I'll take my piece of paper. I don't have a piece of paper on me, but I'll take a piece of paper and I stick it in a plastic stand. So everybody's got the reading skills builder on different tables, like I'll have 3 stations. And now these guys, level 5 people and 6 people, are going to do these articles. And my lower level people are going to do these articles. You might have 3 stations, you might have 2 stations. I know at the jail, I had this group and then I had this group. I never had anybody in between. It was crazy. I had people that were like ready to take the test, and then I had people that needed to learn to read. So you can divide these into different learning centers based on whatever level they are. You could take something a little later. I'm going to show you Jamestown. So I'm going to show you Jamestown and World War I and World War II, and we have all of those. So you can do that, and then you can create an activity based on that. So you've got all of that in there in the Journey to Success. So in Journey to, here's what the book looks like. Did any of you guys use those books? Anybody
No.
use them?
No.
What I like about them is you have all of these things in one book. Work and life skills. So when somebody says, are you doing workplace literacy? Oh, here's Cher, I'm using the Journey books. It's got self-study, science, literature, and writing in one book. I searched high and low to find something that is at least symbolizes synthesizing, because that's the thing. Synthesizing and generalization is the big piece that they're not passing. And there's some synthesizing in the higher level journey books, but you've got the vocabulary building in every section. They're building your vocabulary in every section. And so I love that. And I love that you can use one book to cover all of these things. It's not a big book. It's a little bit the size about like this. So it's not huge. And it's basically to get them to be introduced to as many topics as possible. Because like I was saying earlier, my student didn't know who Helen Keller was. He didn't know who what Mount Rushmore was. Didn't know what the Civil War was fought about. Didn't know what the Revolutionary War was fought about. So if I can introduce them to at least the topics and then teach them to read and comprehend, I can at least get a little bit ahead of the game on that.
So basically what you're saying is giving our students an overview of what
You mean-
they're going to be reading about, and then they can confine it to what the questions are.
Yes, so what I do is I go here and I will do this always once as a group with them, always. And then if we decide, like my other topic was World War II. Was it World War II or World War I? I can't see what. World War II, which is one of my favorite topics. So I'll put World War II up here. And what I might put is just war. I might just put the word war. Let's start booting up war. And then I might challenge them, say, let's think more specifically about World War II. And then I'll say Hitler. And then they start going, oh, yeah, okay, now I'm starting to remember what World War II is about. And so then we will do that. I can do it with science, social studies. I can do it with math. How might I use that with math? Just this first piece. Oh, I keep pushing the wrong thing. Just number one. How would I use number one with math? Anybody got an idea? No math teachers out there? I would do this. Give me a second. Because we got some time. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Positive and negative numbers. Where do you see them? What do you think of when you think of positive and negative numbers? You can say, I mean, they can come up with anything. They can come with bank, golf, if they're golfers. I mean, they come up and you can start booting their brain up about math, defining all the terms that we're going to talk about when we talk about integers and the word integer. Now we're going to start looking at any maps, graphs, or charts that we might have on those math questions. And now I just start teaching about integers. I don't do 4, 5, or 6, but I can at least do 1, 2, or 3 when it comes to math. But I can use this for anything, math, reading, language arts. I can use it for social studies, science. I can do that for anything. I think somebody had a question. I think I digressed. What was the question that I answered? Okay, I hope I did. What questions do you have about these books or anything else? Or anything that we just talked about with the Reading Skills Builder?
The list, which you did as a group, it sounded as if you were also saying that the student should then do it on his or her own, or no? This is the
Okay,
list.
yes, Rita, thank you. So you got two things. One, I do it as a group. I always do one thing as a group all the time. Then when I break them up and to do another one on their own, I will make it more level specific. So I will have them get into their own level. And I have plastic stands, you know, just so you can get it like Staples or on Amazon, whatever. And then I stick the Reading Skills Builder in that stand. And then I put it on the table, and then I will put my books that I want them to look at underneath the stand. And now you guys are going to do this again on your own, and I'm going to circulate around the room. So I've at least done something as a group activity, because I always think we should always do one thing as a group activity. And then if I have a really leveled class, level 1, 2, and 3, if I have a really leveled class, then I need to go ahead and put them into 3 different levels of learning or 2 different levels of learning. So then now I can still be talking about disease. I can still be talking about World War II, but I've got different books and different articles that meet their level. Does that make sense, Rita?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I love teaching as a whole, and then kind of being a facilitator. And I'm going to show you another one that I do here in a minute that I love doing. But so I love to do it as a whole, but I know there's times when I absolutely have to break them up into the different levels of learning. Barbara?
Well, first, thank you for your presentation. I love your presentation.
Oh, good. Thank you.
And secondly, how do you know what your students are learning as readers, or if they're improving as readers? In other words, how do you assess your students as readers?
That is a really good question, Barbara. And I have a 6-step lesson plan that I did not put as part of this workshop, but it goes warm up, introduction, presentation, practice, and then evaluation, or assessment and application, how you apply it to real life. And it's so interesting because when I go and present that, people always say we struggle with assessment. I can do the practice, but it's the assessment that's difficult. And what I do with the assessment is a lot of times I will give them practice, the little practice test. One of the things that I do as well, though, and I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, but I'll do it here. So I might have them read maybe the second paragraph, disease arrives in Europe. You see that one over on the left-hand side? And then I might say, I want you to draw me a picture about what you just read. I don't care if it's stick figures. I don't care if it doesn't make any sense to me. I want you to draw me a picture about what you just read, because that way I at least know that they're comprehending on that level, because that's where I'm at with my one guy who didn't know Mount Rushmore, Helen Keller. I'm trying to get him to just visualize in his head what he just read so he can stay focused. And then I'm going to take it to the next level. Okay, now I'm going to ask you a couple questions on, do you guys know Webb's depth of knowledge, level 1, 2, 3, 4, Webb's depth? So Webb's depth of knowledge is just a basic, like level 1 is regurgitating, recall, finding it in the paragraph, basically that. So I might ask him a level 1 question. In what year were ships carrying goods from Asia? It's right there. So from there, I'm going to ask him another level 2, maybe in another week or two. I'm going to ask him a level 2 question, and then we'll go up to level 3. I'm going to show you that here in a second. I think in a second, I'm going to show you how I assess a little bit in a very non-traditional way. Because you can always assess by giving him a little paragraph with 3 questions. Paragraph 3 questions, paragraph 3 questions is an easy way to assess. But is it really the best assessment? To me, it's asking those questions on a level 1, 2, and 3 level first, and then having them take those little assessment tests, because that's not always the best way to assess. Do you agree, or do you guys think there's some other way? Is there a better way? What do you all think?
Sometimes what I do is I put people in a group of 3 and I have them work out the answer to the question together.
I love you.
Somebody
Whoever
will have
that is.
one view, somebody will have another view, and then I'll decide whether they got it or they didn't.
Because you know what? Because you're a facilitator, and that's what we need to be. We need to be facilitators of their learning. As adults, that's where we need to get. And you're a facilitator. And I'm going to talk about that here in a second. And I think you guys will see a little bit about what I'm talking about. This is the other thing that I do. And again, I'm going to upload all of this for you guys. So I have 3 questions on the board, 2, 3, and 4. Those are basically my 3 questions. In 2 sentences or less, summarize the article. Could they do that? That's a good assessment. Could they do that? Be sure to reference I can't see because my body's in the way, reference the central idea. Oh, that's what I said. Be sure to reference the central idea. So be sure to when you summarize, make sure you're telling me what the main idea about this article is about. With this 1 through 5 here, you can use anything. That's what I like about it. I will bring my National Geographic articles, magazines in. I will bring in sports magazines if I know I got a bunch of guys that like sports. I have these cards that I refuse to show you because you can't buy them anymore. And people were mad at me when I showed them last time. They're like, we can't buy them. Why are you showing these things? But you can pull any article from any book, any magazine, the journey to success, whatever you want, put up on the board, summarize the article in 2 sentences or less. 2 sentences. That's a little bit of a challenge for them. If it's harder for them, tell them to go to number 3. Number 3. List 3 to 5 facts about the article. But I want you to write something that's going to capture my attention. And I don't want it written word for word. You got to come up with your own words. Challenge them to rewrite it in their own words. List 3 to 5 facts about the article. Write something that will capture my attention. Make them be creative. Really push them. Be that facilitator. Help them figure out how to do that. And then what is the purpose of this information? One of them that we just read was Louis Pasteur. So we learned about pasteurization. Why would I need to know this? Why is learning about pasteurization important? And you could go about, that's why we have milk on the shelves today. That's why children aren't dying anymore, which is what was referenced in that article. But you just ask those three things. Summarize the article, list 3 to 5 facts. What's the purpose of this information? Why do I need to know this? Why does anybody need to know this? And the other thing I throw in there, other than the timeline down there, but the other thing I throw in there is, as I say to them, I lost it. What was it? I throw in there. Oh, I lost it because I looked at the timeline. What was it? What was the purpose of the information? Why? Oh, if there's a question. So if it said, why El Nino and not El Nina? That was one of the articles. And so it asked a question. The article, the title asked a question. You need to answer the question. So if your title asks a question, answer the question. And if it references a timeline, create that timeline and tell us a story. So then afterwards, they are up at flip chart paper. I love flip chart paper. I'll use it anytime I can. And then they do exactly whoever was talking earlier. Was that Rita? Who was talking earlier and said, I put them in groups of 3?
Connie,
Connie. So Connie, is that exactly right?
The
Put them in groups of,
article, her workshop.
what's that? Did somebody say something?
they did.
Did I miss it?
We all did.
Oh, did somebody say something?
Someone said something, but I don't know what.
Okay, I'll keep talking. I think what you said was right, Connie, is you put them in groups of 3. If you put them in groups of 4, they're going to start pairing off. Put them in groups of 2, you have a tendency to, they struggle a little bit. I will do groups of 2 or 3, depending on your students. Make sure you know your students. I always say, number one thing, know your students. Do they need to be in
And
groups
the
of
other
2?
thing is, when I do the groups of 3, I always put one who knows more than the other 2, but is a nice person.
But we'll also work with those other 2 and not just take over.
Yes.
Exactly, Connie. Know
Yes.
your students. And sometimes if I think I got a guy that's really smart and a guy that just doesn't want to do anything, sometimes that doesn't work because this guy will just do it.
Yes.
And the other guy will just sit there. So
Right.
I go back to know your students. Know your students and pair them accordingly. And I never have a problem with saying, I want you and you to work together and you to work together. I always put them in pairs because I know who's going to work with who in order to get what I need out of them, right? So I think it's important, know your students. But then I think it's good too, then that they, after they've done this, that they get up and they actually tell the rest of the class what they just read. Because everybody might be reading something different, might be something completely different. Because, for example, when I do my timelines, I put up a whole bunch of different things. We may have talked about some of this throughout the time. We might have talked about all of these things over a period of time. Now, I'm spoiled, I admit it, at the jail. I was very spoiled because I had a cohort. They came down, we worked and worked. Some people took the test, some people stayed on, some people left and went to prison. I was very spoiled because I had them, I knew I had them, I could do units of instruction. I understand that doesn't work in the real world of adult ed very often, but it worked for me. So here's what I would do, and if it doesn't work for you, we'll talk about that. Because what you do is you say, I'm going to talk about these things, or you could just talk about the Revolutionary War. And talk about all the things that happened in the Revolutionary War. What I'm going to show you here in a minute, the picture I'm going to show you was basically all of this coming together in one big timeline. We went from the 1700s all the way to the 1960s, which is the Cold War. So we talked about all of that, but you could just do, and I've done, just the Revolutionary War. And then talk about all of the different things that are in the Revolutionary War. Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Boston Tea Party, whatever it is, and just do that. So we might have talked about a little bit. I love showing the story, the history of is it the story, the history of us? You guys know what I'm talking about on the History Channel? The history of us, the story, the history. I'm not saying it right. Do anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I watch it.
Okay, we watch that in like hour increments at times. Sometimes when we just need a break, we'll watch it for an hour. It doesn't always work in community-based programs because they're like, if I'm going to watch a movie, I'm going to leave. But it worked for us, and we would watch some of that. But we would talk about the Revolutionary War, and then what would happen is after we talked about it, after we did it, there's great articles in all of the most of the Journey of Success books. There's a lot of articles that you could do at leveled learning. So somebody here could be talking about Jamestown. Somebody could be talking about Declaration of Independence and different levels in the book. So if you had different levels of learning, you can include them. So you can integrate them into this wonderful lesson. So then they've all talked about it. We've all been reading about it. I come in and on the dry erase board, whatever you have, I have big sticky notes. Sometimes I didn't. You'll see in a minute. They were little sticky notes, but usually big sticky notes all over my board. It's got the Revolutionary War, the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, the Boston Tea Party, however many people I have. I usually have at least one. If I have 6 people, let's say I had 8 people, I'll have 8 sticky notes. Okay. So one for each person. As you come in, you grab a sticky note. You are now responsible to tell me a little bit about it because we've been talking about it and you've had homework and you should have been reading your homework. You do a little bit of talking about it and then you place it on the timeline. So it'll look something like that. And I didn't want his face so brightly there, so I covered him up, but that's him here. But they would come in, they had their stuff down. I did not draw that straight line. One of my students did. It's beautiful, but this is the big full timeline because this is my unit that we've been doing. So they've got it from the 1619 all the way to the 1980. So I don't think did we have anything other than 19? Eventually we did. And so they did all of this timeline and put it together, and they had to do it as a team with their different ones. Some people said, no, that's not where it goes. We moved it around. And then they actually came up and they could do it in teams or they could do it individually. And they talked about their little sticky note, whatever was on it, based on information they read out of one of the career or the Journey to Success books or Ducksters.com. Have you guys ever done Ducksters? Anybody do that one?
No.
I'll tell you what I like and what I don't like about Ducksters. What I like about Ducksters is it's a very short article for, it says it's an 8th grade, 9th grade reading level. I say it's probably 5th or 6th grade reading level, I would say. When I did that little read it thing where you can copy and paste something into the thing and it said it was 9th grade and I'm like, I'm not an expert on that, but it didn't have like hardly any vocabulary in there. But I like it because it gives them that introduction into the Boston Tea Party. It talks a little bit about what the Constitution is. It talks about the Stamp Act. It talks about little things and it gives them all these little tidbits. And then at the bottom of the article, after you've read it, it's online, you can print it. It's a little tedious to print, but you can print. But at the end, there's a quiz on each of the Jasmine, do you use it?
I've done it. I've done it because I've had a Greek mythology unit. So that's what they had too. And that was, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you
So
like
that,
about it?
no, like you said, they had like, well, my guys are ESL, so they're like 5th, depends, but that time I had like a 5th, 6th grade reading level people. So that was perfect. What I liked about it, it had, it had those quizzes at the end,
Yeah.
and the articles were like, small, they could be read quickly and
Yes.
not too much vocabulary. For me, that worked.
And it's a great way to introduce them to that
Yeah.
topic. And then you can take it to the next level if you want. You can do it as homework and then have them come back and do what we see on the screen here. I mean, it's a great way. You can also use, any of your other materials that you use. I hate to keep going back to the Journey to Success books, but I like them because they're leveled. And anytime you give me a leveled book that I can do talking about Jamestown, and then I can be talking about something else in the same era at a different level, and I can still teach as a whole, I'm going to use it. Because to me, inclusion isn't just about setting up learning centers. Inclusion to me is doing the reading skills builder or doing something like this as a whole, but I still was able to give you an article that was at your reading level, whether you're ready for the HSC or you're just at a third or fourth reading level. And now I feel part of my group. I feel part of my cohort. And if you want to talk about retention and motivation, this is it. This is it. If you can get them leveled, but you're all still working as a group, you'll have that retention and you'll have that motivation, and they'll continue to come. And my favorite saying is, if you can't keep them, you can't teach them. If you can't teach them, you can't post test them. And it's all about post testing, because we got to have our money in order to continue to function, right? And to serve these people. So, but that's how I like to
Well,
use
I just have to say,
Yes.
one way that I found keeping people together is bringing them in a community and telling them they're all working with each other, for each other. And it doesn't matter if somebody knows more than you do or less than you do. We're all here together to do something together for all of us.
I love that. Gave me chills. Connie,
And that's what brought them back, and they just kept coming back.
because they're now a community.
Yeah.
You need to read the book. I didn't put it in this workshop, but you need to read the book, Reclaiming Our Youth at Risk. I know it says the word youth in there, but it talks about the circle of courage from the Native Americans people, and I just absolutely love it. And it talks about the number one thing to keep our youth in the tribe, in the group, is a sense of belonging. You would love that book. So Connie, I would encourage anybody to get that book, but it's called Reclaiming Our Youth at Risk. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful model by our Native American people. And it talks about belonging. And then without belonging, you can't master. Without master, you can't become an independent person. And without being independent, you can't give back to your community. Generosity. So belonging, mastery, independence, generosity. And it is just beautiful. So
Thank you.
I would encourage you guys to grab that book, Reclaiming Our Youth at Risk. It's on Amazon. I think it's like $12 or something. And it's a quick read. But it's exactly what you're saying, Connie. If we don't give them that sense of belonging and that they are part of a group and part of a community, we're not going to get them to master. We're not going to get them to be independent thinkers and doers, and then we're not going to get them to become successful people in society. And so I think that that's such an important piece. Thank you for sharing that, Connie, because that really is so important, so true.
Thank you.
Any questions on that?
I don't have a question, Sarah, but I'm at a conference and I have to go now, so I'm going to sign off. But thank you so much for everything you've done. I put as much information as I could about these topics in chat.
Oh, good. So a lot of the stuff is in the chat window. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Okay, so here's some of we're wrapping up here in a few minutes. So I'm trying to get this out of the way. Okay, this thing's gonna drive me nuts. Let's pull you up there. There we go. So here are some of the things that I've talked about. So the New Readers Press, you've got the literacy resource book, which is this guy. It also comes in ESL for anybody that might have signed on late. I know this isn't about math, but it also has a math book, and I found this to be incredibly valuable. What I like about these books, I don't know if you guys know the math tiles for algebra, but you actually have the template in the back of the map, and these are reproducible. So in the, let me see what I got tagged here. Oh, like understanding cause and effect. So like this is in the literacy one. It says, here's your method, here's the purpose, here's the method, here's suggestions, and then on the next page is your activity. So it gives you the activity, and then in the back, you know how it's always hard to find word lists? There's a complete word list for on 2 pages. And then it also gives you, for lower level people, simple sample word patterns. It gives you conversations. It gives you all kinds of your site, a social site word list, the most frequently used words. So, and remember, this is for literacy, but it goes all the way up to comprehension. You got to have your phonemes, your vocabulary, fluency, and then comprehension. We've got to stop trying to teach comprehension before we've had those other 3 things. That's just research. That's just research. And then I know you guys probably all know about Teachers Pay Teachers, correct? Everybody's got Teachers Pay Teachers. There's valuable things on there. I didn't really showcase anything in this particular workshop on that, but you've got that. I've got Ducksters.com, and the Eyewitness to History is a great place to grab articles to do that one thing that I said, summarize, give me 3 to 5 facts, and then tell me why this is important. So it's a great way to just grab those activities. So now, because we got to start closing up here in a minute. So now we've got our road that used to look like this. Remember when we started? And I hope now it's starting to look a little more like this as you get in, and you can kind of go through and kind of see that there is a concrete sequential way to teach reading, because we oftentimes we don't have a method. Oftentimes we don't have a method, and there is a concrete sequential way, starting with the reading skills builder, getting them up, doing this, getting them into groups, doing timelines. The language arts reading starts with vocabulary, and then you can use the reading skills builder with the language arts reading as well. I mean, because we just did Mount Rushmore the other day, and I showed him a picture of it. And then I said, okay, what do you think of when you see this Mount Rushmore picture? And then we started brainstorming, and then we read about Mount Rushmore. And that was a language arts reading article. So I'm going to end with this, but before I do, don't forget to fill out your evaluation. I'm to remind you of that. I'm also to remind you that I will upload between now and Monday. Because I'm actually getting ready. As soon as we're done, I'm going to head to my mother's. She's turning 90 in a few weeks, and we're going over to make all of the Lebanese food for her 90th birthday. So,
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
we're having fun. So I will do this between now and Monday. But I will upload those. Don't forget to do your evaluation. And I think that's it. I'm going to end with this, and I'm going to ask any questions, but I love this. I'm a Star Trek fan. Sorry, I'm a Trekkie, but the greatest danger facing us is ourselves and the irrational fear of the unknown. There's no such thing as the unknown, only things temporarily hidden, temporarily not understood. And I think about that with our students who cannot read well. And they have this irrational fear of math, science, social studies, politics, whatever it is. But if we can teach them to read and we can open up this world for them, it's really just temporarily hidden for them. And now we can teach them in a concrete sequential way and open up a world that they didn't even know was possible for them. So I leave you with that. Does anybody have any questions?
What's the time? Can we get your slides?
You will, yes, I'll send those, but if you would like this, how's that? You've got all my information there too. So if you need me, but that's my title. I will upload these probably either tonight or Monday at the latest. I'll have them uploaded to them Monday at the latest. Because they said they're going to be on your guys' website or something. I think it's all going to be on the website.
Thank you, Sarah. You were very good.
Good. I hope so. Can you
Yes,
tell I'm
thank you
very
so much.
passionate about adult ed and reading.
Yes.
I'm so glad I had some participants. Thank you guys for being so good and participating with all of my stuff up here. I was just tired of doing webinars, and I'm like, we're gonna teach. We're gonna work. So I thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much. It was fabulous. really
Thank
helpful.
you.
Thank
Rita.
you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Keep doing wonderful things.